Been looking forward to this. She was born and raised in the Great Lakes region and has lived in Oregon since 1995. She was a teacher originally in the early 60s, and she got fired from her job by the school board at the time. And she says that since then, a good number of her poems, essays, and stories have grown out of her developing political consciousness into lyric expression. Perhaps most notable of these are the works displaying her commitment to conscious motherhood and reproductive justice, which began decades ago when she worked as an underground feminist abortion clinic staff person in the pre-Roe years in Chicago. She was a teacher for 40 years, literature, writing, women's studies, humanities. And her writing has been fostered by residencies and supported by grants. So she is permanently grateful. She's the author of a biography of Grace Paley's life story, which remains the only book-length study of her. Her poetry and fiction recently received Small Press Publication Awards, Here From Somewhere Else, 2015, and soon to be a major motion picture, 2014. Her new book of poetry collection, and I was going to hand it up, but it's back at my seat. So I will just say, Judith is going to hold it up. See, this is what we're doing. Judith is going to hold it up now. So that's her new poetry collection, and my lovely wife Jane has agreed to sell books, so they will be available for sale. So she's right here, and they will be available for sale after the reading. She hosts a poetry show on Oregon's KBOO, Community Radio, Poetry and Everything, on the fourth Monday of every month. And I know as an interviewer, she asks insightful questions, and she wants to help her guests get their views out. So those are some characteristics of a great interviewer. For more information about Judith, check her website, which is juditharcana.com. With that, we're ready. We're ready. There should be a drum roll here. Join me in welcoming our poet for the night, Judith Arcana.
Thank you, Tom. The clock and the water get up here first, then the poetry. How's that? Oh, I could hear it myself. I think it's working. All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here with us all. Many thanks to the folks who run this reading series, not just for my being here, but for every year, all these years, as Tom was telling y'all, they do this, and it's pretty wonderful. Also, they have the advantage over other perfectly nice series in being here with the geese and the ducks and the flying water birds and the turtles and the loveliness. They have the loveliness going for them. I also want to say thank you to Oregon Small Presses. I consider myself a beneficiary of Oregon Small Presses. It is true that I have sometimes had my work published outside of Oregon, or by presses outside of Oregon, and by not so small presses. However, they sustain and nourish our work in quite amazing ways. People don't realize that the little folks are doing this. I want to name some that have worked with me. Uttered Chaos, which is in Eugene. Left Fork, which is way down in O'Brien, and now its new poetry line, Flowstone, also in O'Brien, in the Illinois River Valley of Oregon, which I didn't even know there was an Illinois River Valley in Oregon until I found there's a publisher in the Illinois River Valley of Oregon. And of course, Eberhard Press, which just brought my chapbook, Fourth Period English, out in a second edition. Those folks are nurturing us, sustaining us, bringing us out into the world where y'all can read our work. I'm going to open, as I very, very often do, with what I call other people's work, OPW, in my notes to self. Tonight, I'm going to read 2 poems by Lucille Clifton from her book Voices, which is, I think, 2008 this one came out. There are, luckily for us, especially since Lucille is dead now and no longer producing, several collections of poetry by Lucille Clifton. This one, Voices. The first poem is called Mirror. One day, we will look into the mirror, and the great nation standing there will shake its head and frown the way babies do who are just born and can't remember why they asked for just these people, just this chance. And when we close our eyes against regret, we will be left alone in the wrong image, not understanding what we are or what we had hoped to be. When I was reading this book just for pleasure, not necessarily preparing for tonight, I thought, whoa, this is one of those times you read something that was written so long ago and is so prescient that she could have written it yesterday or this afternoon. Similarly, but in a different way, the second poem by Lucille Clifton that I'll read is called Whitko, which is part of the name of the man known to history as Crazy Horse. His name was Tasunke Whitko when he was born, and he was called Crazy Horse as he came into his maturity. He was born around 1840, died in 1877. He was Oglala Lakota. And one of the things that made me choose this poem for tonight is that in this poem, Lucille Clifton is addressing someone who's quite different from her, talking about someone who's quite different from her. And some folks wonder about the appropriateness of those choices. I'm a fan, and of course, because it's Lucille Clifton, she does a fine job, in my view. Whitko, a.k.a. Crazy Horse. The man who wore a blue stone behind his ear did not dance, dreamed clear fields and red men everywhere, woke and braided his curling brown hair as his enchanted horse, who woke with him, prepared, whispering, "Hokahe, brother, it is a good day to die." Lucille Clifton, in her greatness. She was here, 10 or 15 years ago, and so I, fangirl, I went to have her sign one of the books, and I actually, can you believe I did this? I'm going to tell, not only did I do it, but I'm going to tell you that I did it. When I went up to her to ask her, would you please sign my book? We said platitudes at each other for a few seconds, and then I quoted to her the lines that are the closing lines of my favorite of her poems, which is called Hag Riding, and we actually nearly sang them together. So that is one of my, as you may imagine, as they say, fondest memories of an encounter with a poet who is very important to me. Lucille Clifton. Then I thought I would move into the Judith Arcana part by reading the title poems of 2 chapbooks from Oregon Small Presses. The first one, the title of the chapbook and the title of this poem, Here from Somewhere Else. Sometimes the market band, here from somewhere else, plays bluegrass. The grass looks green, tree green in the sun, goes blue in shade, low-flying shadows. Every night, the band says, dusk leans over Kentucky, long meadows, tall grass, bowing, shading itself blue. Every morning, dew slides slender light along grass blades, bending them blue. The slide, the bend, and bowing, they're all here in delicate boxes, banjo, mandolin, fiddle, and guitar. The mouth harp blues them down. And the title poem from this one's from Uttered Chaos. This one is from the first one was from Left Fork. Title of the book, title of the poem, The Parachute Jump Effect. I actually wrote this for another poet, the grand and glorious Patricia Smith, because I met her when she was hanging around in Portland for a while a few years back, and we discovered we both were from Chicago, and we began to exchange memories and jokes and other tidbits as word women one to another. And we talked about Riverview, an amusement park, not unlike Oaks Park, actually, and its parachute jump, the parachute jump effect. In the throat, right? Isn't that where you said this memory got to you? When you said that, my own throat closed in empathy. Me, though, it got to me in the chest, red cliche of the heart, where it grabs me still, squeezing. Yeah, my Valentine got seized at the top of that long hall, up to the sudden thump when the parachute touches and clutches the top, then drops you down into the fall. Remember the tall iron skeleton behind us, rising from sidewalk to sky? Us looking down when we dared, looking out far to the lake. On a clear day, you could see the lake. You and me, we're not in Chicago anymore. And we're not Dorothy either. Even there, then, dazzled by dreamy childhood's grimy glamour, on the Midway, we knew it wasn't Emerald City. Now you're east, I'm west, and we've been clicking across virtual distance. Riverview's gone. It's been disappeared. This is all about history. That's where the parachute jump is now. Memory jolts open and we fall down again on purpose. On purpose, we bought tickets to fall down, to drop ourselves into vertigo. Yeah, we climbed up so we could fall down. Falling down opened the sudden fist that grabbed your throat and squeezed my heart, stopping your air, stopping my blood. We don't have a parachute jump. We have some great rides at Oaks Park, but we don't have a parachute jump. Okay, this is the first full collection of poems that I had published, and it is not from an Oregon press. It is from a small press, Chicory Blue, which is on the other side of the continent. It's called What If Your Mother? And I will read the title poem from this one as well. These are poems about aspects of mothering that are rarely found in poetry, even today, when they're found all over the news and in many other sources of words. This first one is called Not Really a Baby. Most of us think it's not really a baby. Not a baby at all when it's that small. We see pictures on a screen, strange, dim images shot back from space. But we know science isn't what you feel. What you feel comes from inside. Movement Grandma calls quickening. Until then, we count on the calendar to where we'd have to have it be a baby. Like, if you let it grow those chubby bumps into fingers, it would be because of the fingers. Lots of us think it's a baby then, with legs and arms, even if the eyes look like they're from another planet. That's when all the pictures fit inside your family album. That's when most of us think it really is a baby. This is called Think Fast. Like a quiz show, clocks are ticking. The audience is screaming right at you. There are prizes. There are choices. If you want to, call it a baby right from the start. But if you don't, if you can't, if you just can't, then call it an embryo. Clustered cells dividing, splitting. I don't mean they're leaving home. With one choice, they stick around, getting taller all the time, standing at your fridge, door wide open, drinking milk out of the bottle even though you told them not to. You've got to decide right now if you want it. Can you have it? You don't get much time. This one's called Sealed Birth Records Challenged in Court. Actually, that was a headline. I mean, it even sounds like a headline. And indeed, it was, in another life, in its other life. In the old days, everything was secret. You went away to what they called a home, or you stayed inside your own, hiding your belly when you knew you could not keep it. All the signs were danger signs. Breasts heavy with yellow cream, darkening nipples, widening hips, desires for food, sex, sleep, all growing with the child while you stood wide-footed, moving side to side like a broad-bottomed boat riding the long tide going out without you. Salty water shifting with a small internal moon until eclipse when they took the child away. And you'd never see it, never know its name, never know if the eyes darkened, mind sharpened, curious about you, if they talked about you, if they said you were first, said you held the baby first. This one's called You Don't Know. You think I didn't care about that baby. Didn't wonder if we'd like each other when she turned 14. Didn't think he'd follow anywhere his older brother went. You think we'd take them out like gangsters, disappear them like generals. You don't know how it works then, do you? You don't know what sits on both sides of the scale, what it means to decide what I got and what I gave. Gave that baby I didn't have. Baby who couldn't make me laugh, applesauce upside down on her head. Couldn't make me cry, taking his first step right off the porch. You don't even know that this is not about regret. You don't know one blessed, I say blessed thing about it. And here's the title poem to close the set from this book. What if your mother? Sometimes when you talk to them in argument, they say, what if your mother had an abortion? And then I say, she did, because it's true, only that one wasn't me. It was somebody else. Nobody but my mother ever knew that baby. But they mean me, the people who say it, mean, what if she aborted me? Like, that's hard to answer. They're so stupid. Because what if she miscarried or gave me away? What if I drowned at the beach when I was 3? What if she loved someone else, not my dad? Then I wouldn't be here either. What if? What if? What's the point of asking this phony question? All you could ever answer is, then everything would be different, wouldn't it? One thing sure, I wouldn't be standing here talking to some jerk who asked me that dumb question. I wouldn't be mad at my mother for doing it, would I? I think you just have to tell these people, get real. That's not what it's all about. From Chicory Blue Press. Thank you. Well, now let's see if you like these. Sometimes, currently, I think about, so what am I writing about? I'm writing about abortion and adoption. I'm writing about immigration. I'm writing about aging and ageism. It's just a laugh riot all the way. So this is the book that just came out last year from Flowstone of Left Fork in the Illinois River Valley, down at the bottom of the state. Announcements from the planetarium. Oh, this is the one I was waving. I'll wave it again. And it has a lot of stuff in it about getting older and how that's handled by the self, whoever that self is, and excuse me, and how that's treated by the general population, let's say. This is called Art Appreciation Later. On the wall of the gallery at the far end of the room, a long frame of clean wood matching these floorboards. Mounted in that frame, 2 large squares of silent silk, one bright red, one mild gray. Years ago, young, she laughed out loud at what she thought pretentious, even arrogant. But now, here, something's changed. Her experience is meditative, the effect directly physical. Her body softens while she stands there, facing the squares. She's not concentrating, she's looking. She's just being there, being with the red, the gray. She sees threads, the weave of the silk. Her eyes are simply aimed, not focused. She makes no analysis. Her shoulders, spine, and hips are loosening. She wants to get down on the warm wooden floor, wishing that long frame was on the ceiling so she could lie down on her back, gaze up at the silks floating above her. A different kind of art in this one is called Roll Over Beethoven. Obviously, Chuck Berry's tune. And it actually begins with an epigraph from Cyndi Lauper, a different generation of rock and rollers. Lauper said, "This is rock and roll. We should not be conservative and we should not be safe." What if I set up a soundtrack of my life on the iPod, choosing a song, a theme for every crucial scene, notable speech, realization? For the moment I knew I could leave my marriage, is Night on Bald Mountain too obvious? For cliches of bad faith adult behavior, example, affair with married father of small children, maybe something strident from Carmen. Or should it all be doo-wop, R&B, rockabilly? Because every song I heard in high school lives inside my body. Inside maybe every cell. 55, 56, transistor radios. You could carry the music. You could take it to the beach. Even now, when memory bites us all, every note, every word is instantly available, total recall shooting through me like adrenaline. Bo Diddley, Fats Domino, Etta James, Elvis, and Brenda Lee, who was younger than me. I don't have those clothes anymore, but if I did, I'd put them on and dance all night in Mickey's basement. We did just dance and dance and dance. Like, now I think of it as kind of crazy, but it's clearly an adolescent thing. We could dance all night. That's one of the reasons we did. Some of you may have seen the film Harold and Maude, or read the novel Harold and Maude. I've dedicated this poem to Colin Higgins in memoriam because he wrote both the novel and the movie. And this piece is called But You May Call Me Maude. Maude came to me in a dream, really. She was sitting at the kitchen table. She was steeping a small pot of oat straw tea and had baked a little ginger pie in my toaster oven. She came, she told me, because she heard me say, I wish her hair had been white in the movie, like it was, you know, in the book. She said, oh, but just think about those people out in Hollywood. It was rough, a struggle every day. And Ruth looked good, didn't she? Even with those bronze brown braids, she never, not for one single minute, looked young. Everybody could see her real skin. You can bet that was a hurdle. I asked if she'd use bigger numbers now, since people are living longer. Then she'd riffed on it. I'll be 80 next week. Good time to move on. 75 is too early. 85, you're just marking time. All that. So now, I asked her, how about maybe 90? 95? I wanted to know. Truth is, she said to me, there should be no numbers. Numbers are generic. Like the daisy scene, when Ruth shows Bud each flower is unique. Numbers aren't really useful. Everybody's got to decide. Think about what's going on inside you, body, mind, and outside too, the world. Look at it all. That's how you know when. That's what we were talking about in the car on the way here, actually, some of us. This is part of a series that I call mixtapes. There are 8 of them in here, or maybe only 7 of the 8, or is it 8 of the 9? Anyway, there's a bunch of mixtapes in here, and what they are is I've done what I would be doing if I were a DJ, mixing. I've taken stuff from other people's work and made poems out of their lines, and then at the end listed the sources. So this one is mixtape number 7, and it's called The Old Woman Gives Advice. It takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry. Even so, it's never too late to be what you might have been. There is still time to do good things. I'll help you, but you must do just as I say. Otherwise, you'll get into trouble. Here's the rule. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And this mixtape includes words from Bob Dylan, Marianne Evans called George Eliot, whoever put up the sign just north of Casita number 2 on Los Panditos Road at the Wurlitzer Foundation in Taos, New Mexico. To this day, I don't know who wrote it. Irene Tammany and Albert Einstein. They're like a very funky band, right? Okay, this one is called The Old Woman is Angry Again. Because, again, her actual self has been denied. With a smile, of course. Denial offered as a favor, a kindness, a sweetness. The speaker assuming she'll be flattered to hear that who she is, the old woman, what she is, an old woman, is not really, not now, not here, who or what she is. Oh no, not even close, says the cashier when the old woman asks for the elder discount on her grocery bill. The cashier smiles as those words slap the old woman, sliding her credit card along the sensitive rim of the register computer that will, or will not, approve of her. They always smile when they do this. She can see what they expect. She will accept denial, take erasure as the gift they mean it to be. They're giving her a gift, saving her from the awfulness of her own true life, and they want her to smile about it, join up and pretend makeup, hair dye, cosmetic surgery. Pretend she's not who she really is. A woman grown old out in the world, buying radishes, cereal, soap, cookies. This one's called The Woman Who Hands You a Gun. Don't think because I'm old, I'm not learning anymore. No, that's not how it goes. Right now I'm on my way, leaving town to be a carny, a barker at the tattooed lady's tent flap, or the woman who hands you a gun at the shooting gallery, or hoops to toss over baby dolls. It's got to be something I don't have to study or practice, something I can slip right into on the job training, because I don't have that kind of time anymore. I'm saying I'll be an intern, an apprentice, not a student. I don't have time for that. I could write a poem like this every day because I think about that stuff every day. I'm 75 now. I actually wrote that earlier, but not in the moment am I able to tell you exactly when. This one is called A Disagreement Among Friends, Sitting in the Park on a Bench in the Sun. One says, the hardest part about being old is admitting to yourself you actually are. But it's not hard for my old woman. She loves saying it. I'm old now. She says this to herself, and she says it to everybody else, too. One says, maybe the hardest thing about it, being old, is remembering when you were young. But my old woman loves her young memory. And before she was born, too. History, even the future, triumph of hope or tragedy. She wants to love the future. And the last one from this collection is literally the last one in this collection. It's called No Matter What's Happening. In the middle of whatever you must be doing, stop to think about stars. Wildly far away, burning up there so long. And think about the heat of connection between you and everything. How that heat moves, sometimes thumping like a slightly broken motor, the kind with a rotating drum. And think about how everything sometimes gets sticky, like candy in a Valentine box left in the sun on the back porch, balanced on the railing's corner, where the floorboards are warped, tipping just enough to make you dizzy while you stand there looking up. The editor for this and the editor for Flowstone is Michael Spring, quite a wonderful poet who lives down there in O'Brien and publishes work. Maybe some of you folks are on his list. He's been turning them out in the last couple years, Oregon poets and other folk. Most recently, like literally in the last couple of months, a collection called Fourth Period English, the first edition of which came out nearly a decade ago, has come back into print in this really nicely designed version. Same cover art by Portland artist David Schrader from Eberhard Press here in Portland. Fourth Period English is a theater piece in addition to a collection excuse me, of poems. And what's happening here is that a teacher, the teacher in the classroom where during fourth period is teaching English, has assigned her students to deal with immigration and all of the related issues that come up among them. And of course they're fighting, arguing, sometimes not being nice to each other. Shocking, eh? But true. And no and. This is, well, no, there is one and. Almost all the poems have titles with the word talking in them. So this is Veronica, talking. You can pass those laws, but just like any other law nobody wants, nobody will obey. My people will come here and drive cars to the restaurants where we bus tables, to fields where we pick berries, hospitals where we wash your grandfather's sick body Sí, el cuerpo de un pobre viejo. So he won't smell bad when you visit him one Sunday every month of your legal life. This one's called Matthew talking. You're breathing my air. You come here and use my air. Every day you take it for your own lungs. I know when you push it out, I breathe it in. Then my air's been inside you. I inhale what you exhale, air that was inside the throat you're talking Spanish from. Holding my air inside your chest, holding it next to your Mexican heart before you give it back to me. This is Tiffany talking. I know some Spanish, right? Taco, burrito, loco's crazy, que tal, and que pasa. That's what you say instead of, hey, what's up? What's going on? I hear it. And sí. Yeah, everybody knows that one. But no, like no, is just the same, right? When you say no, to say it, you guys just talk American. That's my girl Tiffany, I love her. When these characters showed up in my head, I was so stunned. I thought, who are these people? And you know, years ago I would listen to fiction. I've said this to others, maybe you've even heard me say it, and in that case, forgive me, I'm saying it again. I would listen to fiction writers, prose writers of all kinds, but especially fiction writers, and they would say that stuff about, oh, this character just came into my head, and I would think, oh, please. Well, turns out, that's exactly how it happens. This is Becky talking. You speak the language pretty good, except you have that accent. You don't sound right when you're talking English. You say it like different from how it really is. My family came here 100 years ago. My grandma says they had to leave home. She tells me stories. She has the hat her own grandma wore on the boat coming here. She worked in a factory making shirts instead of high school. She couldn't read in English. So that's why I'm asking, why did you come? Did you have to leave home? And Win Chin talking to Jose in the hall. Don't you get mad, Jose, just listening to them talk? Those American kids talking like they know something. Your people are like my people, old, ancient. My dad says we already had languages and cities and art way, way long ago, 2,000, 5,000 years before this place was even a country. It's all inside of us. It's in our blood, temples, chants, and music. Stone statues in the jungle, better food even. Yeah, eating totally different from all this. All real different because the ancestors had wisdom. My people understood the movement of the planets before they even knew there were planets. And yours did too. And the last one I'll read from this is one of the adults. Yeah, me too. Let's both take a little drink of water. The last one that I'll read for now from this collection is one of the adults. He's a guest. He's been invited by the teacher. The teacher is Ms. Solomon. This guy's name is Professor Saul Ricardo da Silva. He comes from the university to visit, and everybody thinks he's Ms. Solomon's boyfriend. What do I teach? I teach philosophy of ecology, also politics of environmentalism, and political history of the Americas. Yes, los dos, the Americas, all the way from Alaska to Patagonia, Tierra del Fuego. It is a lot, yes, you're right. So I do it in sections, a little bit at a time, like you do your homework. I concentrate on each piece. I don't want to get confused or confuse my students. What if they wound up thinking Che was born in Cuba? You didn't know. He was from Argentina, like me. What if they didn't know about the ancient cities of the Amazon? Whole civilizations, older than most of Europe. Yes, I know, this is not history class. This is English class. But English, American English, our shared language, lives in history. Yes, and English tells stories. Even poems tell stories. We do one piece at a time, talking. We talk about definition, what it is, and what some big ones might be, like what political means, and history, and even America, where that name came from, how it's used. We have to talk about what borders are and countries. We start each term defining the class itself, figuring out what we have to do to make the class fit its name. Usually somebody asks right away, what does it mean to say history is political? How's that different from other history? What other kinds of history are there? It goes on like that. And in other courses, we define philosophy, environmentalism, and ecology. Yes, every time. Well, here's the funny thing. I do think I know. Yes, and most of them think they know too. But often we disagree. Then we argue. We fight it out the whole semester. We argue our way into learning. So this book came out nearly 10 years ago, and when Charles and I, the publisher, editor, who wanted to bring it back, looked at it, we thought, it's not out of date. There are a few cultural references, particularly Portlandic and our region, but clearly and unfortunately, it's not out of date. So it's back. And we're pleased about it, and I'm particularly interested in having young people perform it. So I've been starting to contact theater folks and, of course, the people at KBOO Community Radio, where there's an awful lot of really good talking, reciting, and acting, as well as music and thinking on the air all the time. I thought I would bring something from a journal, something that hasn't been in any of my books or chapbooks. And I picked this one because I just love it. So I hope you like it at least. It was in Calyx, as you see, a few years ago. It's called Persephone Talks to Her Girlfriends on Her Cell Phone. And it is, of course, drawn directly from the ancient myth of Persephone being stolen, taken down to hell, all the stuff that happens, all the circumstances and other mythic characters that we all studied. Usually freshman year, I think they do that, but maybe other times. Okay, Persephone talks to her girlfriends on her cell phone. It's so boring here. There's like nothing to do. And you know how my phone keeps breaking up? Well, that totally happens with everything down here. There's like bad reception on everything. Even my iPad cuts out sometimes. And he still won't let me go on Facebook. He says I can do that when I'm with my mom. He never lets me do anything. And even though I'm supposed to be like Queen, remember the flower from, that day? And those stupid red seeds? Well, those are the only things he even ever gave me. No way. How did you even hear about that? But yeah, no, it's totally true. Those guys were so drunk, or maybe high. Pirithous was definitely really out of it. Okay, with Theseus, I can't be sure. You know how trippy he is. So anyway, Hades made them sit on this magic couch he has where once you sit there, you can't get up. So they sat there. Yeah, no, totally. Pirithous is still here. But last week, Heracles, they think he's some rock star, got to come down for a visit and take Theseus back home with him when he left. That hardly ever happens. Theseus was really lucky. Yeah, you can say that, but so what about that other girl who was down here? She was a lot older than me and just a mortal. But they said she could go home. Okay, so yeah, she got sent back, but it was totally on a technicality, like in soccer or something. The guy who came to take her back fucked up. He was a musician, and he played all this really sad music, like the kind that can make you cry. And he got the boring old judges all on his side. But then he, the guy, didn't follow even the one dumb rule they gave him. So yeah, that girl had even more bad luck than me. She should have had her mother come down to get her. I love thinking. I was a crazy fan of mythology in high school and even for years afterwards. But I love thinking about them in that way. Okay, so because, so a little while ago I had cancer, and then I got a little more cancer, and that was, of course, really shocking and terrifying, as we all know, whether we've had it or not. And so I thought, once I calmed down and came back to real life and had the 2 surgeries, I thought, boy, I'm going to write some really heavy-duty, serious stuff about cancer. You're already smiling because you know. But what happened was that I've written almost nothing about it, and they're all silly. So I'm going to give you a little silly cancer stuff. Then I'll close with a poem for the solstice. This one's called Tea for Tumors. Oh, let's get together. Let's have tea and chat. I've heard rumors you've got tumors. I know something about that. And indeed, that was written for another poet here in town, and that is exactly what happened. We learned about each other's tumors. And we did have tea and talk about it on more than one occasion. This one's called Musings from a Draftee in the War Against Cancer. You know, they use that term all the time, the war against cancer. My cancer, the one that got assigned to me, has 3 colors, and that's unusual. No doctor ever mentioned this part of the deal. No, I found my colors online, as you'd expect. Turns out the marketing division's in charge. All the cancers have colors and months. I hadn't known the industry is so complex. Everybody knows breasts are pink no matter what color the woman is. Funny that breasts got October, which really goes much better with marigold, purple, and blue, the lovely triplets they've assigned to bladder cancer. You'd think yellow, but no. And bladder cancer got July for drinking more water, I guess. Everybody gets T-shirts and keychains, bumper stickers and fridge magnets. Everybody gets the language. Military, talk of battling, fighting, surviving. Everybody's a grunt, doing what we're told by officer docs, orderly nurses. So far, I've not seen hospital gowns, surgery caps, or booties in camo. Must be coming up next. So maybe someday I'm going to write a serious piece, poetry or prose. But so far that has not happened, and it's about, it's definitely one of the most serious things in my life or anybody's, and yet silliness, who can say? All right, so we are on, as Tom mentioned, the summer solstice, the end of the great light at, I wrote this down, where was it? It's about 3 o'clock, a little bit after, in our time zone, at a little bit after 3 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, that is to say on the 21st, we will have the summer solstice moment, which is to say we will tip over into the time when the light begins to grow shorter. Now, it'll take quite a while for that to happen. In the summer, you can hardly discern, but once the fall comes and we near the equinox, it's pretty obvious. So I'm saluting the great light with this poem, which actually appears in at least 2 chapbooks and one of my collections. I seem to be unable to release this poem. Maybe reading it to you will allow me to let it run free. It's called Light Falling Here. Always, writers say, the light on the water shines like diamonds, shines like gold. But the truth is that gold and that diamonds want only to shine like the light on the water. Just now on the early morning river, every spangle is a bird flashing tiny wings of light. The sun has thrown a sheet of hammered gold over the slow skin of the dawn river. A raft of light turns on dark water, tethered to the boat dock, moving with the river. And I, waking here, dream the sun falling down in the ocean, light in the heart of the sea. Fire at the heart of the sea. My heart is on fire in the water. Light burns in the heart of the sea. Seawater skin on the body of a sunset. Sunset, a fire at the watery edge of the world. Fire all there at the edge of the world, burning the skin of the water. Wet sand, a mirror for fire in the water. Sunset, a tipped bowl of flame. I ask myself again, can I be in love with the light on the water? So in love that I long for that light on the top of a mountain and on the prairie need to touch it with my eyes. In forest, the light comes pouring all down, gilding a pool where sun finds a break in the trees, and I, mouth open, lips burning, kneel blinded inside the blaze. I yearn for the liquid full moon, running silk silver all night, crave lightning on through the wash of the rain, weep at stars that tip waves in the lake. I want to see fire clouds up in the sky, their water hearts pierced by the sun, to drown through geometry gleaming in light on the floor of a sunstruck pond. Now again, sun falls into ocean, moon rises out in far sky. They stream to me here on the shore. Light shivers the water. Gold silver crosses the sky, crosses the world, this whole world, coming to me. The shivering, glimmering path leads to me, just here, to my face, to my feet, moons and suns rising and falling in water, light falling here into love. For the solstice. Thank you, folks. Thank you. So as I understand it, it is, from being here more than twice, that it's time for those who want to ask me questions, and perhaps I will have answers, can't promise. Yes?
Well, I'd like to thank you for three things. First of all, what if my mother, you were a Jane?
Yes, well, you've been reading the newspapers, buddy.
And I just watched a VHS tape at Portland State before I came here, Jane, an abortion story.
Oh.
Featured in it.
Oh.
And they're described as ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I wouldn't say that. I would say they were extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. And the second thing is you introduced me to Grace Paley.
All right.
And I watched another an old video cassette. You know how that stuff.
Yeah, a documentary about Grace?
No, she just.
Oh.
I hate short stories. Trust me. But I loved her stuff. I
Reasonably enough.
You know, I have her book on order here over here. Thank you for those two things. But most importantly, as an entry-level old person.
That's exactly the phrase I've been using.
No, I haven't written that. I'm finding it very difficult. Now, there's a TV movie, Shetland. It's a police procedural in the Shetland Islands, of course. And in one place, one of the characters, she works in an old folks home. She says, "The thing I dread about being old is no one touches you anymore." But having said that, and having read announcements from the planetarium, I must say that you made life much better for me. Because there's certain things that you said in there. Well, first of all, the fool said to King Lear, "Thou shouldest not been old till thou hadst been wise." You said,
I've never met this man before in my life.
you can be this old and not be wise, but you can't be wise if you're not this old. And it's all through that thing, you so cheered me up about being an old fellow. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. That's quite a remarkable speech, and I actually, laughing and joking aside, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. And clearly we've thought about some of the same things. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Well, speaking about the same things, who do you read? Who would you say influenced you?
Tom, I was going to read the poem that I wrote about you, but I thought, I have a poem called Tom Always Asks the Visiting Poets About Their Influences. Yes.
That was about when do you write?
Yes.
What are your writing
Okay.
practices?
Oh, well now, but which question are you asking now? Oh, you asked me what am I reading or, paying attention to?
That was the question.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, actually, and which is why I read her work, I've been rereading some Lucille Clifton, always quite wonderful. I'm heavy into Ross Gay these days. He is fabulous. Can't recommend him more highly. Yeah, both of these are poets, Lucille Clifton and Ross Gay. I just finished a collection of, literally this afternoon, because it was so hot I had to lie down on the floor and couldn't work in the computer. Always a tragedy, right, when you're forced into reading something that's giving you great pleasure. And I read this, her name is Lydia, for God's sake, now I'm not going to be able to think of her name. See, that's a part of the thing. That's not the fun part. Well, people who want to know about this story collection that I'm yammering about, send me an email through the website. Anyway, this collection was wonderful because I actually hated the first story. I thought, I'm taking this back to the library. And then for reasons I will never know, but I'm grateful for, I kept reading. I thought I'll give her another chance. And then, all the way to the end of the book. She's done a thing which I admire and work on myself, which is create a linked story collection, so that what you find is that a character that you met or you heard mentioned in story 2 is the main character in story 6, or people are talking about him in story 9, and it's not like a novel. It's a completely other experience, and it's great. It's a tremendous amount of enjoyment to say, oh, yes. Oh, it's like meeting somebody on the bus. Oh, yes. I remember you. They just talked about you in the other, anyway. And it's quite well done. Also, her staccato style. It might be Lydia Bennett, or am I just, that's a character in Pride and Prejudice? It's close to that. Anyway, that's the most recent. Wish I could do better with that question. What else you got? Well, then it must be time to eat strawberries and drink whatever's in those bottles and buy books if you are so inclined. And thanks again very much for coming. Thank you.